National Quilt Studies Center and Museum's ever-growing collection of quilts, patchwork, and related materials spans generations and the world. Here are some of the special pieces in our collection. Our oldest dated quilt was made in 1796 by Anna Ruggles in England. This quilt was created using a mosaic patchwork technique. Paper templates were used to stabilize and give shape to fabrics before they were sewn together. Paper piecing was a common technique in England in the late 18th century. It remained popular in the United Kingdom for the next 150 years. The museum has quilts that we believe are older than 1796. One yellow silk whole cloth quilt was quite popular in Europe along the Mediterranean Sea around 1600. Its style and materials help us assign a general date, but we do not have firm documentation the way we do with Anna Ruggles' 1796 piece. It's difficult to put a price on cultural, historical, and sentimental value of the quilts in our collection. But Lucinda Ward Honstein's Reconciliation quilt is one of our most valuable pieces. Made in Brooklyn in 1867, it serves as an important document of social history. American Folk Art magazine wrote that it is the best example of American folk art. This quilt is also famous because it set a record for the most ever paid for a quilt at auction. It sold for $264,000 at Sotheby's in 1991 before eventually joining our collection. The Wistar family quilt is one of the largest quilts in our collection, measuring at more than 130 inches square. Dated 1842 and 43, this album quilt indicates that family and friends gave the quilt as a gift to Sarah Wistar. Made in Philadelphia, this quilt reveals what mattered to the Wistar family, such as their family tree, Quaker organizations, and an inscription dedicated to President William H. Harrison. Some of the smallest quilted items in our collection are children's clothing, doll and cradle quilts, and pajagi from South Korea. One of the smallest is a 4-patch quilt from the Gormley collection of doll quilts. Measuring at 4 1/4 inches by 6 inches, it was made in the late 19th century in New Hampshire and uses scraps of fabric dating back to the 1870s. Antique American quilts make up the bulk of our collection. Many subgroups and styles within that portion of our collection are well represented. We have more than 200 log cabin quilts. This pattern has been one of the most popular during the past 150 years. We also have more than 300 North American Amish quilts. They come from communities across the United States and Canada, including the famed Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. Popular from the late 1800s to the early 1900s, crazy quilts are made of irregular shapes of various fabrics, often velvets and silks. The irregular geometric patterns and craze lines were associated with the Japanese style, which became popular in the U.S. after the 1876 Centennial Exposition in Pennsylvania. We have more than 100 crazy quilts in our collection. Perhaps one of the most recognized is My Crazy Dream by Mary Hernandez Ricard. Though she worked on the quilt for 35 years, it was never completed. Inscribed on the quilt are the title, dates, and places she lived. Ricard's name and portrait also appear on the quilt, which is quite rare. The 1970s saw a renewed interest in American traditions, inspired by the U.S. bicentennial. Many Americans felt the need to return to the traditional ways of making things. They felt that industrial production had removed the human spirit from daily objects. This generated new interest in quilts and quilt making. It inspired artists to explore traditional crafts for expressive purposes. Studio artists like Jean Ray Laurie, Michael James, and Nancy Crow began making quilts that were unlike anything seen before. Today, organizations like the Studio Art Quilt Associates represent hundreds of people who make quilts as art. We are proud to represent new artists and add contemporary art quilt pieces to our collection each year. We do not have Nebraska pioneer Grace Snyder's famous Petty Point basket quilt, which she considered her most significant quilt. It's housed at the Nebraska State History Museum, also located in Lincoln. We are fortunate to have several other Snyder pieces and assorted fancy work in our collection, including hexagon mosaic. Hexagon mosaic was included in the elite list of the 100 best American quilts of the 20th century. Snyder's bedside quilt was based on an original design by Albert Small. Intrigued by the design, which she saw in a magazine, Snyder wrote to Small requesting a template. He sent her 6 fabric hexagons and a black and white snapshot of the quilt, which she enlarged. Made in 1940, has 58,640 hand-stitched pieces. To view these and the rest of the quilts in our museum's collection, visit our website and select Search the Collections.